Maria Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished her double shift at the downtown diner. Her feet ached, and her back was sore from carrying heavy plates all day, but she forced a smile as she counted her tips. $23.47. It wasn't enough, but it would have to be. Tomorrow was her son Diego's 8th birthday, and she had promised him a special cake from Bella's bakery, the same bakery where all the rich kids in the neighborhood got their fancy birthday cakes. Diego had been talking about it for weeks, describing the chocolate cake with blue frosting he saw in their window display. "Mama, can I really get the superhero cake?" he had asked her every night before bed, his dark eyes shining with hope. "Yes, mijo," she always replied, kissing his forehead. "Mama will make sure you get your special cake." But now, standing outside Bella's bakery with her crumpled bills and loose change, Maria felt her heart breaking. The cake cost $58. She was $34.53 short. She had already worked every extra shift possible, cleaned houses on weekends, and sold some of her jewelry. There was nothing left to sell except her grandmother's ring, and she couldn't bear to part with the last piece of her family history. The bell above the bakery door chimed as she entered. The sweet smell of vanilla and chocolate filled the air, making her stomach rumble. She hadn't eaten since morning, saving every penny for Diego's cake. "Can I help you?" asked Mrs. Bella, the elderly Italian woman who owned the shop. Her kind eyes crinkled at the corners, and flour dusted her apron. "Yes, I'm here about the superhero cake for tomorrow. I called yesterday about the reservation," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Bella nodded and pulled out her order book. "Ah, yes, Rodriguez. The chocolate cake with blue frosting and superhero decorations. That will be $58. Maria's hands trembled as she placed her money on the counter. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Bella. I know I promised to pay in full today, but I only have $23. Could you maybe make a smaller cake? Or let me pay you next week when I get paid again?" Mrs. Bella's expression softened. She had seen many struggling mothers come through her doors over the years. "I'm sorry, dear. I understand your situation, but I have bills to pay too. The ingredients alone cost $30, and I already prepared everything for tomorrow morning." Maria felt tears stinging her eyes. She had failed her son. Again. Just like when she couldn't afford his school field trip, or new shoes when his old ones got holes, or the baseball glove all the other kids had. "Please," Maria whispered. "It's his 8th birthday. He's been talking about this cake for months. I promise I'll pay you back. I work at Danny's Diner on 5th Street. You can call them to verify. I never miss work, and I always pay my debts." Mrs. Bella looked uncomfortable. She wanted to help, but she had learned the hard way that running a business on promises was a recipe for bankruptcy. "I'm truly sorry, but I cannot do custom cakes without full payment. Maybe you could get him a nice cake from the grocery store instead?" The suggestion felt like a knife to Maria's heart. Diego would be devastated. He had bragged to his classmates about getting a real bakery cake just like the popular kids. She could already imagine his disappointed face when she would have to explain why she had broken another promise. "I understand," Maria said quietly, gathering her money. "Thank you for your time." As she turned to leave, the bakery door opened with such force that it slammed against the wall. A tall man in an expensive black suit entered, flanked by 2 similarly dressed companions. The entire atmosphere in the shop changed instantly. Mrs. Bella's face went pale, and she quickly busied herself arranging already perfect displays. The man in front was clearly the leader. He had dark hair slicked back, piercing gray eyes, and a presence that commanded immediate attention. His suit probably cost more than Maria made in 6 months. Gold cufflinks caught the light as he adjusted his jacket, and a thick gold chain was visible at his neck. This was Vincent "Vinny" Marconi, though Maria didn't know his name. She only knew that he looked dangerous and important, the kind of man who appeared in news reports about organized crime. His reputation preceded him throughout the neighborhood. Business owners either feared him or owed him favors. Politicians called him for support. Police officers looked the other way when his name came up. Vinny had built his empire through a combination of old-school intimidation and modern business acumen. He owned restaurants, construction companies, and shipping businesses throughout the city. Some of these ventures were completely legitimate, while others operated in the gray areas of the law. He was known for his strict code of honor, his loyalty to family, and his swift punishment of those who crossed him. But Vinny also had a softer side that few people ever saw. Growing up poor in the same neighborhood, he remembered what it felt like to go without. His own mother had worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table, and he never forgot the shame of wearing hand-me-down clothes to school while rich kids mocked his accent and background. "Mrs. Bella," Vinny said, his voice smooth but carrying an undertone of authority. "I need to place a large order for my mother's birthday party next week." "Of course, Mr. Marconi," Mrs. Bella replied quickly. "Whatever you need." Maria tried to slip past them quietly, but Vinny's sharp eyes caught her movement. He noticed her red-rimmed eyes and the crumpled bills in her hand. His gaze shifted to Mrs. Bella, who looked nervous and guilty. "Is there a problem here?" Vinny asked, his voice neutral but his eyes curious. Mrs. Bella shook her head quickly. "No problem at all, Mr. Marconi. Just a small misunderstanding about a cake order." But Vinny had grown up reading people's faces and body language. It was a survival skill in his world. He could see the shame on Maria's face, the defensive posture of Mrs. Bella, and the tension in the air that spoke of a difficult conversation. "What kind of misunderstanding?" he pressed gently. Maria lifted her chin with as much dignity as she could muster. She refused to be humiliated in front of strangers, no matter how important they seemed. "It's nothing, sir. Just a cake I can't afford for my son's birthday. I'll figure something else out." The honesty in her voice struck Vinny unexpectedly. Most people lied to him, told him what they thought he wanted to hear, or tried to impress him with exaggerated stories. But this woman, clearly struggling and embarrassed, spoke with simple truth. "How much is the cake?" he asked. $58, Maria replied, wondering why this stranger cared about her problems. "But it doesn't matter. I only have $23. Vinny studied her face carefully. He saw pride there, and love, and the kind of exhaustion that came from working multiple jobs while trying to raise a child alone. It reminded him of his own mother's face during those difficult years when his father had died and left them with nothing but debt and whispered threats from enemies who thought they could move in on a widowed woman. "What kind of cake?" he asked. "Chocolate with blue frosting and superhero decorations," Maria answered, confused by his questions but too tired to be suspicious. "My son Diego loves superheroes. He thinks they can fix everything." A shadow crossed Vinny's face at the mention of superheroes. His own son, Antonio, had loved superheroes too, before the car accident that took both him and Vinny's wife 3 years ago. The boy had been only 7 years old, just 1 year younger than this woman's son was now. "Mrs. Bella," Vinny said quietly, pulling out his wallet. "Add this lady's cake order to my bill for next week. The chocolate one with blue frosting and superheroes." Maria's eyes widened. "No, I can't accept charity. I don't even know who you are." "It's not charity," Vinny replied, his voice gentle but firm. "It's a birthday gift from one parent to another. Every kid deserves a special cake on their birthday." "But I can't pay you back right away," Maria protested. "I don't take handouts." Vinny respected her pride. It reminded him of his own mother, who had scrubbed floors rather than accept welfare, who had patched their clothes rather than shop at the charity bins. "Then don't think of it as a handout. Think of it as an investment." "What do you mean?" Someday, when you're in a position to help another struggling parent, you pass it forward. That's all the payment I need." Maria stared at this mysterious man in his expensive suit, trying to understand his motives. In her experience, men like him didn't help women like her without expecting something in return. But his eyes held no calculation, no hidden agenda, just understanding and perhaps a hint of old pain. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" she asked. Vinny was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. "Because every child should believe that superheroes exist, even if it's just for one day." The weight of those words hung in the air. Mrs. Bella had stopped pretending to work and was watching the exchange with growing amazement. In 30 years of business, she had never seen Vincent Marconi show such gentleness to anyone outside his immediate circle. "I don't know what to say," Maria whispered. "Say you'll let your son enjoy his birthday," Vinny replied. "That's enough." He handed Mrs. Bella several $100 bills. "The cake, plus a nice tip for the excellent service, and Mrs. Bella, make sure it's the most beautiful superhero cake you've ever created." Mrs. Bella nodded enthusiastically, her earlier nervousness replaced by genuine warmth. "It will be ready at 9 tomorrow morning, absolutely perfect." As Vinny turned to leave with his men, Maria called out softly, "Wait, I don't even know your name." He paused at the door, looking back at her with an expression that was hard to read. "Vincent, and your son is lucky to have a mother who loves him so much." Then he was gone, leaving Maria standing in the bakery with tears streaming down her face and a heart so full of gratitude she could barely breathe. That night, as she tucked Diego into bed, she could hardly contain her excitement about the surprise waiting for him tomorrow. For the first time in months, she had been able to keep a promise to her son. And for the first time in years, she had met someone who understood what it meant to love a child enough to move mountains for their happiness. What Maria didn't know was that Vincent Marconi had been watching her through the bakery window for several minutes before entering. He had been walking to a business meeting when he noticed her distressed conversation with Mrs. Bella. Something about the woman's posture, her obvious love for her child, and her quiet dignity had stopped him in his tracks. In his world of deals and territory disputes and careful calculations, he rarely encountered such genuine emotion. Most people in his life wanted something from him: money, protection, favors, or simply to avoid his displeasure. But this woman wanted nothing except to make her child happy on his birthday. As his black car pulled away from the bakery, Vinny found himself thinking about Antonio's 8th birthday, which they had never gotten to celebrate. His son had been planning it for months, talking about the party they would have, the friends he would invite, the cake with Spider-Man decorations he wanted. Instead, they had buried him on a cold February morning, with toys and flowers covering a casket that seemed impossibly small. Helping Diego get his birthday cake wouldn't bring Antonio back, but somehow it felt like the right thing to do. Maybe even something Antonio would have wanted him to do. The next morning arrived with unexpected sunshine streaming through the thin curtains of Maria's small apartment. Diego bounced on his bed at exactly 6:30, his excitement too strong for sleep. "Mama! Mama! It's my birthday!" he shouted, running into her bedroom and jumping onto her bed. Maria smiled sleepily and pulled her son close for a hug. "Happy birthday, my brave boy. Are you ready for your special day?" "Can we get my cake now? The superhero one?" Diego's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "After breakfast, mijo. The bakery doesn't open until 9. They spent the morning together in their tiny kitchen, Maria making Diego's favorite pancakes while he chattered about his birthday plans. He was going to invite his best friend Carlos over, and maybe they could watch superhero movies and definitely eat lots of cake. "Mama, how did you get the money for the real bakery cake?" Diego asked as he poured syrup on his pancakes. Maria had thought about how to answer this question all night. She settled on a simple truth. A very kind man helped us yesterday. Sometimes angels come when you need them most. Like superheroes? Exactly like superheroes. At 9 o'clock sharp, they walked hand in hand to Bella's bakery. Diego pressed his nose against the window, trying to spot his cake among the displays. Mrs. Bella saw them coming and smiled widely, disappearing into the back room. When she returned, she carried the most magnificent cake Diego had ever seen. It was bigger than he had imagined, covered in bright blue frosting with perfectly crafted superhero figures on top. Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman stood proudly among colorful decorations and 8 bright candles. "Is that really for me?" Diego whispered in awe. "All for you, young man," Mrs. Bella said warmly. "Happy birthday!" Diego's face lit up like Christmas morning. He turned to Maria with tears in his eyes. "Mama, it's perfect. It's the most beautiful cake in the whole world." Maria paid Mrs. Bella the $23 she had, which the baker accepted graciously as her contribution to the cake. As they carefully carried their treasure home, Diego talked non-stop about how he couldn't wait to show Carlos and how all the kids at school would be so impressed. The birthday party was small but perfect. Carlos arrived with a homemade card and a small toy car his mother had wrapped in newspaper. Diego's elderly neighbor, Mrs. Brassen Chen, brought fresh flowers from her garden. They played games, watched movies, and when it came time to blow out the candles, Diego made his wish with his whole heart. "What did you wish for?" Carlos asked as they cut into the delicious cake. "I can't tell you, or it won't come true," Diego said seriously. "But I wished for something really important." What Diego had wished for was that the kind man who helped his mama would find happiness too, because his mama had explained that people who help others must have good hearts. Meanwhile, across town, Vincent Marconi sat in his office reviewing business reports. But his mind kept drifting to the scene at the bakery the day before. His assistant knocked and entered with the day's schedule. "Boss, you have a meeting with the construction union at 2. Dinner with the Torino family at 7, and your accountant wants to discuss the new restaurant chain proposal." Tommy, his right-hand man, rattled off the appointments. "Tommy," Vinny said suddenly, "cancel the dinner with the Torinos. I want you to find out everything you can about a woman named Maria Rodriguez. She works at Danny's Diner on 5th Street. Tommy raised an eyebrow, but asked no questions. In 20 years of working for Vinny, he had learned not to question his boss's requests, no matter how unusual they seemed. Within 2 hours, Tommy returned with a thick folder. Maria Elena Rodriguez, age 28. Works double shifts at Danny's Diner, has for 3 years. Single mother to Diego Rodriguez, age 8, as of today. Father, not in the picture. No criminal record, pays her bills on time when she can. Good credit considering her income level. "What else?" Vinny prompted. "She's 3 months behind on rent. Landlord is threatening eviction next week. Her car needs major repairs she can't afford. Kids on the honor roll at school, but missed several field trips due to cost. She's been selling her belongings to pay for basic necessities." Tommy paused. "Boss, she's clean. Just poor and struggling." Vinny studied the photos in the file. Maria at work, looking tired but professional. Diego walking to school, his clothes clean but obviously secondhand. A woman doing everything she could to provide for her child with dignity intact. "Find out who her landlord is," Vinny instructed, "and get me the address." That evening, as Maria was cleaning up after Diego's birthday party, there was a knock at their apartment door. She looked through the peephole and saw a well-dressed young man she didn't recognize. "Who is it?" she called. "My name is Tommy Rossini. I work for Vincent Marconi. He asked me to deliver something to you." Maria's heart raced. She opened the door cautiously, keeping the chain lock in place. Tommy held up an envelope. "Mr. Marconi wanted to make sure Diego enjoyed his birthday," Tommy said politely. This is a small token of appreciation for allowing him to help with the cake. I don't understand. Why would he send anything else? Tommy smiled genuinely. Because he believes every kid deserves to feel special on their birthday. May I? Maria unlatched the chain and accepted the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a note written in elegant handwriting. For Diego's education fund. Every superhero needs a good education to save the world properly. V. Beneath the note was a cashier's check for $5,000. Maria gasped and nearly dropped the envelope. I can't accept this. It's too much. Why would he do this? Mrs. Rodriguez, Tommy said gently, Mr. Marconi lost his own son 3 years ago. Helping Diego makes him feel like his boy's memory is honored. Please don't take that away from him. The weight of this revelation hit Maria like a physical blow. The man who had helped them was grieving his own child. His kindness wasn't random charity. It was love finding a way to flow when its original recipient was gone. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Just say you'll use it to build a better future for Diego. That's all Mr. Marconi wants. After Tommy left, Maria sat at her small kitchen table staring at the check. $5,000 would change everything. She could catch up on rent, fix her car, buy Diego new clothes, even save money for his college fund. But more than the money, she was moved by the story behind it. This powerful man had seen something in her situation that reminded him of loss too deep to imagine. His gift wasn't about showing off his wealth. It was about connection, about finding meaning in grief. 3 days later, Maria surprised herself by walking into Marconi's restaurant, Vinny's flagship establishment in Little Italy. She had never been anywhere so elegant. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths and fresh flowers. Well-dressed diners spoke in hushed tones while waiters moved efficiently between tables. The maitre d' approached with a polite but questioning expression. Maria felt underdressed in her simple work clothes, but she squared her shoulders with determination. I need to speak with Mr. Vincent Marconi, please. My name is Maria Rodriguez. The man's expression changed slightly when he heard her name. One moment, please. He disappeared into the back, returning quickly. Mr. Marconi will see you. Please follow me. She was led to a private dining room where Vinny sat alone at a small table, reading a newspaper. He looked up when she entered, and she was struck again by his penetrating gray eyes. Mrs. Rodriguez, please sit down. Can I offer you something to eat? Some wine? Just coffee, please. Maria sat carefully, trying to find the right words. Mr. Marconi, I came to thank you. And to ask you something. You don't need to thank me. How is Diego? He's wonderful. He told everyone at school about his cake. You made him feel like the most important boy in the world. Maria paused, studying his face. Your friend told me about your son. I'm so sorry for your loss. Pain flickered across Vinny's features before he carefully composed himself. Antonio would have been 11 this year. He loved birthdays almost as much as he loved superheroes. What was he like? For the next hour, Vinny found himself talking about Antonio in a way he hadn't since the accident. He told Maria about his son's laugh, his endless questions about how things worked, his dream of becoming a scientist who would invent real superpowers. He sounds like he was an amazing boy, Maria said softly. He was. Being his father was the best thing I ever did. Vinny's voice was thick with emotion. I would give everything I own for one more day with him. You know, Maria said carefully, Diego asked me yesterday if angels are real. I told him yes, that sometimes they wear expensive suits and show up in bakeries. Vinny smiled slightly, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. What did you want to ask me? Maria took a deep breath. The money you gave us. It's more than generous. It's life-changing. but I wondered if maybe instead of just taking it, there might be a way for Diego and me to earn your help." "What do you mean?" "I'm a good cook. I work hard. Diego is smart and well-behaved. Maybe there's something we could do for you, some way to pay you back with service instead of money." Vinny was quiet for a long moment. In his world, people rarely offered to work for gifts freely given. Most took what they could get and disappeared. But here was this woman, offering to give back, to turn charity into partnership. "Can you cook Italian food?" he asked. "My grandmother was from Naples. She taught me everything she knew." "I'm opening a new restaurant next month. Family style, authentic Italian. I need someone I can trust to help develop the menu. Someone who understands that food is about love, not just profit." Maria's eyes widened. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity. Better pay than the diner, regular hours so you can spend time with Diego, and a chance to use your talents for something you care about." "Why would you trust me with something so important?" "Because you tried to give back before you took anything. Because you love your son the way I loved mine. Because I think Antonio would have liked both of you very much." As Maria walked home that evening, she felt like she was floating. Not only did she have enough money to solve her immediate problems, but she had been offered a chance to build a real career, to use skills she had almost forgotten she possessed. But more than that, she felt like she had found an unexpected friend in the most unlikely place. A man who understood loss and hope, who saw potential where others saw only problems, who proved that strength and gentleness could exist in the same heart. When she tucked Diego into bed that night and he asked about her day, she smiled and kissed his forehead. "I think our superhero is watching over us, mijo. I think he's going to help us build something wonderful." Diego smiled sleepily. "I knew he was a real superhero, Mama. Real superheroes always come back to help more people." As she turned off the light, Maria whispered a prayer of gratitude for birthday cakes, kind strangers, and the mysterious ways that hope could bloom in the darkest places. 6 months after Diego's 8th birthday, Maria's life had transformed in ways she never could have imagined. The new restaurant, Nonna's Kitchen, had become the most popular family dining spot in Little Italy. Maria's authentic recipes and warm personality drew crowds every night, while her business sense helped Vincent expand beyond his expectations. But the most unexpected change was the friendship that had grown between Maria and Vincent, and the bond that had formed between Vincent and Diego. Every Tuesday evening, Vincent would stop by the restaurant after the dinner rush to review the week's business with Maria. These meetings gradually became less about profit margins and more about sharing stories over coffee and leftover tiramisu. Maria learned about Vincent's childhood, his rise in business, and the complicated world he navigated daily. Vincent discovered Maria's dreams of opening her own catering company someday, her fears about raising Diego alone, and her remarkable strength in facing every challenge. Diego had become a regular fixture at the restaurant on weekends, doing homework in a corner booth while his mother worked. Vincent often found himself sitting with the boy, helping with math problems or listening to stories about school. "Mr. Vincent," Diego said one Saturday afternoon as they worked on multiplication tables together, "my teacher says I should join the science club, but it costs money for supplies and field trips." Vincent looked up from the math worksheet they were reviewing. "Do you want to join?" "Really bad. They're going to build rockets and study how plants grow and visit the planetarium. But Mama already works so hard, and I don't want her to worry about more money." The boy's thoughtfulness struck Vincent deeply. At 9 years old, Diego was already protecting his mother from additional burdens, showing wisdom beyond his years. "What if I told you that someone wanted to sponsor your science club membership? Would that be okay with you?" Diego's eyes lit up, then grew serious. "Only if it's not charity. Mama says we don't take charity. We earn our way." Vincent smiled. This boy had learned his mother's pride and dignity well. Then let's make a deal. You help me with something I need, and I'll help you with science club. Fair trade. What could I help you with? I'm just a kid. I'm thinking about starting a scholarship program for kids in the neighborhood who love science, but I need someone to help me understand what kids your age really need. You could be my consultant. Diego's face serious with the importance of this responsibility. Like a real job? Exactly like a real job. You would test out science kits, visit different programs, and write reports about what you learned. Think you could handle that? Yes, sir. When do I start? Their handshake sealed the deal, and Maria, who had been watching from across the restaurant with tears in her eyes, felt her heart overflow with gratitude once again. The science club was just the beginning. Over the following months, Vincent quietly invested in Diego's future in countless ways. New school supplies appeared without fanfare. The broken playground equipment at Diego's school was mysteriously replaced over a weekend. The after-school tutoring program suddenly had funding for additional teachers. But Vincent's influence extended beyond money. He taught Diego about responsibility, respect, and the importance of protecting those you care about. He showed up for school plays, science fairs, and baseball games. He helped with complicated homework and listened to Diego's increasingly sophisticated questions about how the world worked. Why do some kids have so much while others have so little? Diego asked one evening as they walked through the neighborhood together. Life isn't always fair, Vincent answered honestly. But people who are fortunate have a responsibility to help those who aren't. That's how we make the world a little more fair. Is that why you help people? To make things more fair? Partly. But mostly because helping others connects us to what matters most: family, community, love. Diego absorbed these lessons eagerly, developing a strong moral compass guided by both his mother's values and Vincent's complex understanding of justice. Meanwhile, Maria's relationship with Vincent had deepened in ways that surprised them both. Their Tuesday evening meetings had expanded to include long walks through the neighborhood, weekend dinners at quiet restaurants, and countless conversations about everything from favorite books to childhood dreams. Vincent found himself sharing parts of his life he had never discussed with anyone. Maria's gentle questions and non-judgmental acceptance created a safe space where he could be vulnerable about his losses, his regrets, and his hopes for the future. Sometimes I wonder if Antonio would approve of the choices I've made, he confided to Maria one evening as they sat on a park bench watching Diego play on the swings. What do you mean? My business involves difficult decisions, gray areas, things that might be hard for a child to understand. Maria considered this carefully. I think any child would be proud to have a father who protects his family, who helps struggling neighbors, who shows up when people need him. The specifics matter less than the heart behind the actions. Do you think Diego sees me clearly? Knows who I really am? I think Diego sees exactly what you show him. A man who keeps his promises, who listens when he talks, who makes him feel valued and safe. That's who you are with us. Their conversation was interrupted by Diego running over, breathless with excitement. Mr. Vincent, did you see how high I could swing? I bet I could jump from there and fly. How about we save the flying for when you're older? Vincent said, ruffling Diego's hair. Your mama would never forgive me if I let you break any bones. Mr. Vincent, Diego said suddenly, his expression growing serious. Can I ask you something important? Of course. Do you think my mama is pretty? Vincent felt his cheeks warm slightly while Maria laughed in surprise. I think your mama is beautiful, inside and out. Why do you ask? Because sometimes I see you looking at her the way the dads look at the moms in my class, and sometimes she gets happy and shy when you bring her flowers for the restaurant. Out of the mouths of babes. Vincent glanced at Maria, who was blushing but smiling. They had been dancing around their growing feelings for months, neither wanting to complicate the friendship that meant so much to both of them. "Diego," Maria said gently, "grown-up feelings are complicated." "Not really," Diego said with 9-year-old certainty. "Either you like someone a lot or you don't, and you both like each other a lot. I can tell." That evening, after Diego had gone to bed, Vincent and Maria finally had the conversation they had been avoiding. "He's not wrong," Vincent said as they stood on Maria's small balcony overlooking the neighborhood. "I do have feelings for you. Strong ones." "Vincent," Maria began, but he held up a hand. "Let me finish. I know my world is complicated. I know there are risks that come with being close to me. I would never ask you to accept those risks without understanding them completely." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I love you, Maria. I love Diego. I want to be part of your lives, not just as a friend, but as something more. But only if you're absolutely certain you can accept all of who I am." Maria had thought about this moment many times over the past months. She had researched Vincent's reputation, understood the nature of his business, and considered the implications carefully. What she had concluded was that the man she had come to know bore little resemblance to the fearsome figure described in newspaper articles. "I've seen who you are," she said quietly. "I've seen you with Diego, teaching him to tie his shoes and helping him with science projects. I've seen you with elderly customers at the restaurant, making sure they get the best tables and never feel rushed. I've seen you hire people who need second chances and treat your employees like family. And I've fallen in love with that man. Not the reputation, not the power, not the money. The man who remembers that Diego likes extra cheese on his pizza and who still gets sad on his son's birthday." Vincent pulled her gently into his arms. "Are you sure? Once we cross this line, there's no going back to just being friends." "I stopped wanting to go back months ago," Maria whispered just before his lips met hers. Their first kiss was tender and full of promise, the culmination of months of growing trust and affection. When they broke apart, both were smiling through tears of happiness. "So what happens now?" Maria asked. "Now we take it slow. We make sure Diego is comfortable with the changes. We build something strong and honest together. And your business? The complicated parts? We'll remain separate from our family. I've been transitioning toward more legitimate enterprises anyway. Meeting you and Diego reminded me that there are things more important than territory and respect. I want to build a legacy Antonio would be proud of." 6 months later, on a beautiful spring day, Vincent asked Maria to marry him in the same park where they had first talked about their feelings. Diego had helped plan the proposal, hiding in nearby bushes with a camera to capture the moment. "Will you marry me, Maria Rodriguez? Will you let me be Diego's stepfather and love you both for the rest of my life?" Through happy tears, Maria said yes to the man who had started as a stranger, buying a birthday cake, and had become the love of her life. Their wedding was small but perfect, held in the garden behind Nona's kitchen. Diego served as ring-bearer, beaming with pride as his mother married the man who had become his hero and father figure. In his toast, Vincent spoke about second chances, about love finding its way even in the darkest times, and about the family that had healed his broken heart. "Maria taught me that strength isn't about power or control," he said, looking at his new wife with complete devotion. "It's about showing up, keeping promises, and loving without conditions. Diego taught me that being a father isn't about genetics. It's about choosing to guide, protect, and believe in someone every single day." As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Maria whispered in Vincent's ear, "Thank you for being our superhero. Thank you for teaching me how to be human again," he whispered back. Years later, when Diego graduated valedictorian from high school with early acceptance to MIT, he would give a speech about the importance of unlikely heroes. He would talk about how sometimes salvation comes not in a cape and mask, but in an expensive suit and a willingness to help a struggling mother buy her son a birthday cake. Vincent and Maria would sit in the audience, holding hands and remembering that magical day when a simple act of kindness had transformed 3 lives forever. They had built something beautiful together, a family founded on love, respect, and the belief that everyone deserves a chance to feel special, especially on their birthday. And every year on Diego's birthday, they would order a cake from Bella's bakery, now run by Mrs. Bella's daughter, who always made sure to add extra superheroes to honor the real-life superhero story that had started in her mother's shop years before. The Mafia boss had indeed stolen Maria's heart, but in return, she and her son had given him something even more precious, the chance to love and be loved again, proof that even the hardest hearts could be transformed by the simple power of human connection and birthday cake wishes that come true.